It starts with something small, a tone, a glance, a comment, and suddenly your stomach tightens, your heart races, and you're caught in a reaction you didn't choose. You tell yourself, don't let them get to you. But deep down, they already did. Not because they're powerful, but because they touched something unfinished inside you. Carl Jung once said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But understanding takes more courage than control. And most of us, if we're honest, we want control. To feel unbothered, untouchable, immune. So we chase peace like it's a prize. We breathe, meditate, detach, pretend we're above it. Until someone presses the right button. And all that calm, gone. But what if the trigger isn't the problem? What if it's a mirror? Someone says something. It's barely a sentence. A certain tone, a glance, a sigh, and you feel it. That shift inside your chest, the heat in your face, the tightening in your jaw. You tell yourself, don't react, but it's already happening. Your heart picks up, your thoughts race. You try to play it cool, but beneath the surface, you're already spiraling. You replay what they said. You replay how they said it. You imagine what you should have said back. You're angry, frustrated, or maybe just numb, but still thinking about it hours later. Why? Why do such small moments hijack your peace? Why does someone else's energy get to control yours? Carl Jung had an answer, a brutal one. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But here's the truth. Most people don't want to understand themselves. They just want to stop feeling so bothered. So we chase tools. Breathe in, breathe out, ignore, detach, block, control. We fake calm until it crumbles under pressure. We tell ourselves we're healed until the wrong person says the right thing and we're right back where we started. But here's the truth nobody really wants to hear. You're not triggered by them. You're triggered by you. You're not spiraling because of what they did. You're spiraling because of what it touched. That moment, that tone, that glance, it didn't just upset you. It exposed you. Jung didn't see anger as the enemy. He saw it as a flare, a signal, a flashlight pointed at the part of you that's still raw, still waiting to be seen, still asking for permission to exist. You think it's about them. It never was. Think about it. You don't get angry when someone insults a part of you you've already made peace with. You get angry when they touch something fragile, something you're still unsure of, something you've buried. Maybe they made you feel small, not because you are, but because some part of you still believes you are. Maybe they ignored you, and without warning, that old wound, the one about being unseen, unheard, unloved, flares up like fire. And in that moment, you're no longer reacting to the person in front of you. You're reacting to a ghost, to a memory, to the version of you that wasn't protected, wasn't validated, wasn't enough. This is the shadow Jung talked about. Not evil, not darkness, just the parts of you you've pushed away because the world said they were too much, too sensitive, too loud, too too emotional, too needy. So you learn to shrink, to hold it in, to become the version of yourself that didn't make people uncomfortable. But the shadow doesn't die. It waits. And when someone shows up carrying the qualities you've locked away, the boldness, the chaos, the freedom to take up space, your body remembers. Not consciously, not logically, but deep in the nervous system, in the muscle memory of survival. So anger rises, but it's not really about them. It's about what they awaken. It's about the part of you that never got to be. Let's say you pride yourself on staying calm, being mature, being composed. Then someone walks in loud, dramatic, messy. Instant irritation. But it's not them you're really upset with. It's the memory of the time you were told your feelings were too much. The moment you were punished for being emotional. The moment you learned to trade expression for acceptance. And now, years later, when someone lives out the thing you had to kill in yourself, you rage. Not because you hate them, but because you haven't forgiven yourself for burying that part of you. That's what Jung meant when he said the shadow must be integrated, not destroyed. What you suppress doesn't disappear. It just shows up wearing other people's faces. That's why control doesn't work. You can't meditate away the shadow. You can't breathe deep enough to bypass a childhood wound. You can't block enough people to stop the pattern from repeating. Because the pattern isn't out there. It's in here. In the places where your story still hurts. In the roles you still play to feel safe. Most people don't actually want peace. They want predictability. They want to feel in control, so they never have to feel exposed again. But Jung said it best. Control isn't peace. Control is anxiety with better PR. You build a calm exterior, hoping no one sees the storm inside. You call it strength. But if your peace can be shattered by a look, a tone, a text, it was never peace. It was performance. And eventually, performances fall apart. Because you weren't meant to be numb. You were meant to be whole. So what does real peace look like? It's not about never getting triggered. It's about knowing what to do when you are. It's when something hits a nerve and instead of lashing out, you pause. You breathe. Not to suppress, but to listen. You ask yourself, what part of me just got activated? Where have I felt this before? What story am I telling myself right now? Because that's where the truth lives. Not in the argument, not in the insult, not in the silence they gave you, but in what it meant to you, in what it mirrored. You're not reacting to this moment. You're reacting to 100 moments that came before it. To the parent who didn't hear you, to the teacher who dismissed you, to the friendship that made you feel replaceable, to the version of you that never got to speak without flinching. That's what anger is. It's not just fire. It's a flare, a signal that something inside you is still carrying weight it never got to set down. But here's the shift, the moment everything starts to change. When you stop blaming the person in front of you and start getting curious about the reaction within you, that's when anger turns into insight. That's when your trigger becomes your teacher. Most people spend their entire lives avoiding this They rewrite their environment instead of rewriting their patterns. They change jobs, relationships, entire cities, thinking peace will finally show up if they just escape the chaos. But the chaos isn't in the world. It's in the parts of you still waiting to be understood. Jung believed that every trigger is a message, not a failure, not a flaw, a message. And when you stop defending yourself from the pain, you finally start listening to it. You ask, what is this trying to show me? What part of myself am I still not holding? What version of me am I still trying to hide? That's how integration begins. Not with perfection, but with honesty. Integration doesn't mean you never feel hurt again. It means hurt doesn't own you. It means when someone disrespects you, you don't spiral, you respond. When someone leaves, you don't collapse, you release. When someone misunderstands you, you don't over-explain, you stay rooted. Because your worth isn't up for debate anymore. That's the difference between control and clarity. Control needs to prove something. Clarity already knows. And suddenly, the people who used to trigger you, they feel different. Not because they changed, but because they no longer hold pieces of you hadn't claimed. That old friend who talked over you, you don't shrink anymore because you no longer wait for permission to speak. That ex who made you feel invisible, they don't sting because you're no longer looking to be seen through their eyes. That coworker who always tries to compete, their noise doesn't reach you because you've stopped competing with your past. You're not just calm, you're clear. You're not avoiding, you're awake. This is what Carl Jung called individuation, the process of becoming whole. Not perfect, not invincible, whole. It's when the version of you that used to hide, the one who felt like too much or not enough, is no longer locked away. It's when you can feel anger, jealousy, sadness, fear, and still stay centered, still stay you. You're not performing peace, you are peace. And the world can still be loud. People can still misunderstand you, try to provoke you, project their wounds onto you. But it doesn't stick anymore because you've stopped outsourcing your identity. You've stopped letting other people define your reflection. You've built something quieter, stronger, real. Not a mask, not a defense, but an anchor. And now when the trigger comes, you don't flinch. You don't need to win the moment. You just need to stay aligned with who you finally become. So now the question isn't, how do I avoid being triggered? The real question is, what kind of person do I become when nothing outside of me gets to decide who I am? Because you will still walk into rooms where people talk over you. You'll still hear tones laced with judgment. You'll still feel the pull to shrink, to defend, to prove. But you won't follow it anymore. Not because you're passive, but because you've met the part of yourself that no longer needs to be rescued. You faced the wound and held it. You stopped asking others to validate what you've finally decided to accept. This is what it means to be free. Not emotionless, but emotionally honest. Not above it all, but grounded in all of it. You don't react, not because you're cold, but because you're whole. You don't carry grudges, you carry clarity. You don't chase understanding, you sit in self-respect. You don't get pulled into the storm because you are the calm. And the next time someone tries to disturb your peace, you'll feel it, but you won't absorb it. You'll see them clearly, and more importantly, you'll see yourself clearly. And that is the final freedom.